All right, welcome everybody. This is Albert Campa, CantinaMX Podcast. We are back. I have Jaime and Ron here with us with another episode. This is episode 234. Welcome everybody. I have some viewers who just joined. What's going on, Jaime and Ron? How you guys doing?
Hey, what is up, everybody? Still alive. This Rona hasn't taken me out yet, and
Yeah, it's good.
we're just waiting for someone to give us a game plan on what the hell we're gonna do and how we're gonna get back to normal.
Ooh, game plan. Nobody has no game plan, except me. I can talk about the game plan, but yeah,
Let's
that's
hear it. I want to hear your theories.
yeah. We'll get to that. I have like sort of a plan, but yeah, we'll discuss all that stuff. It's we should be seeing some action. There's some rumblings about action. I think Bundesliga and then Liga MX a little bit talk. But Ron, how's it going? Glad to have
Hear
you.
anything.
What? You hear me? Ron is we were just talking
Ron
just a
is
minute. We were
he's
just
a boomer. He doesn't know how to
Can
use
you
the
hear me?
internet.
yeah, I can hear you. You can't hear us. We lost Ron, I
You
guess.
hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, bro. This is how every Zoom conference starts, by the way. Like everybody that works from home right now, this is the same, same 2 minutes of every conversation is like, "Can you hear me?"
Zoom is super easy though, man. But we were just talking to Ron. He was
I
listening to us.
know, man. We were just doing a sound check, man.
That's messed up, man. But while he real quick, I spelled it out. Um, to get things started, Bundesliga is getting things started. I read an article about how Germany is doing things. Everyone thinks Germany is doing things perfect, like they're doing things right. I mean, unless Germany just got on a different planet and coronavirus is no longer in Germany, I don't see how, they're not going to get reinfected or someone's going to, going to get infected.
Didn't someone already in the second division get come up positive for Rona?
In
That's what I
Mexico.
read today.
Yeah, Mexico. See, yeah, that's what I was just reading in Tampico. Some guy got
No, in the German league too, I think.
in German league, probably. See, that's the thing.
Maybe I'm
It's
tripping.
it's it's an inevitability. Okay, so my whole deal is
Yo.
German. Yeah, you hear us?
Okay. Okay. I'm back. I'm back.
Okay, so this is my plan to restart things, and Germany's probably planning to do this, and UFC already started with similar type of measures. So you gotta take precautions. You gotta test everybody when they start to get together as a team. When they start to train, you gotta do questionnaires. If everyone's good, everyone's tested good, then get together and start training and starting with games. The minute and then continuous, frequent testing should go on. The minute someone's tested positive, isolate them, get them out of there. But it's inevitable. It's gonna happen. Like also, while these guys are
Yeah.
playing, they should avoid contact with any, elderly, grandparents. They should understand they're slightly at risk playing, not to themselves necessarily, because younger people, healthy people, are not necessarily, high risk to get any, lethal damage from this virus. But if they come in contact with elderly or sick people, yeah, that could cause a problem. But UFC's going forward, man. They in their first UFC,
Yeah.
they had one dude positive, and everyone was hating on him because they tested the guy, and but while they were waiting for the test, he just kept roaming around. He was just just part of the group on fight week, and he came in contact with some people. He had a mask on and everything. Then later on, they found out he was positive, and then they isolated him. They took him out of the fight, but people were saying, well, look at this video. He was hanging around close to people, and even though he had a mask on, he was positive, asymptomatic, and all this. And I was like, it's just gonna happen, man. But
It is gonna happen. I mean, at this point, the coronavirus is just part of our lives now. It's just like the common flu or the cold. It's just gonna be one of those things that we have to worry about come fall time when all those viruses come out. But I think the difference with the UFC is it's like a very controlled thing, right? Because there's only two fighters, then you got like the coach and the cutman and stuff. But it's not like football where it's like you got 11 on 11 plus a bench plus the coaches. I mean, we're talking about at least 40 people, maybe more. So it's a little bit more complicated. Um,
yeah,
And I'm actually really surprised that the Bundesliga is returning so quickly. Do we have a date on that? I think it's happening like this week, right?
I thought it was this weekend.
Yeah, like we're having kickoff probably what tomorrow, I want to say. Tomorrow or Saturday.
Yeah, we're gonna have to check it out.
It says 1 day, 10 hours. So yeah, I mean, this shit's popping off.
Yeah, so that should be exciting. That's gonna be, and then it's gonna be some action. Not UFC is the
Yeah.
only sport that's been going on, other than Liga MX, but no one's watching that.
The E-Liga. I haven't watched a single minute of soccer that's well, like, soccer players playing FIFA. Like I just don't see the point of it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. Like, I enjoy watching other online gaming, Fortnite in particular. But yeah, just sometimes, I mean, it's a little bit interesting to see a player reaction and stuff, and like celebrate or fake
Yeah.
celebrate a goal. Like it looks sort of fake. I mean, how are you going to
My
celebrate some digital goal or whatever? And but it's just I got over it. I watched a little bit and then I was like, okay, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
my favorite clip that I've seen was Sergio Aguero missing a shot, and his player makes the same reaction as his real reaction, like in real time. Like they had the same animation, bro. It was so funny. They
Oh,
both
really?
like had like that shock, and then like their hands on their hair, just like, whoa, I just missed. I thought it was really funny.
I haven't watched a single, you know, minute of E-Liga. I have I've been watching basically old games and stuff like that. I've been watching some of the in on Twitter and on Facebook sometimes. Like for example, I was watching what was it, the '91 FA Cup final and semifinal. Those were pretty fun to watch. Um, yeah. Other than that, I mean, right now during this Corona, I haven't. I've enjoyed listening to the old timers and basically talk about telling anecdotal stories and stuff like that. I've been finding those really interesting.
Oh, okay.
Like for example, yesterday they had what is it La Volpe on was it Fox, and he was chatting with what's his name, Rafa Marquez, what's his name, Daniel Osornio,
Osorno,
yeah, Osorno,
Danny Boy.
the Danny Boy. They had who else did they have? The guy that Tavelis with Boton, what's his name, Mario Mendez. He played for Toluca,
Mm.
and they had fuck, I'm missing somebody else. I don't
He
remember who
also
else, but
he also played for Atlas, I think.
yeah, he did. Yeah, he
Yeah.
he came up through Atlas. And La Volpe was talking about, mentioning, like he's talking about, the Last Dance, and how much he agreed with, Jordan's, take on leadership.
Mentality. Mm.
That yeah,
I've I've thoroughly enjoyed watching The Last Dance and totally understand Jordan's like mindset and what he had to do. And it sucks because who has done that in Mexico for like the national team? Like who has really like been that kind of leader? Because we I think of when I think of like the best Mexican player of all time, I think of Hugo Sanchez. But I wasn't alive to like really like see his stuff live. So I mean, I've only seen like the highlights of him being winning a Pichichi for Real Madrid and all the trophies he won, but I know that didn't really translate to the national team for one reason or another. Um,
Cuauhtemoc, man. Cuauhtemoc like took under his wing Neri Castillo in that Copa America.
that '07 World
He
Copa
Yeah,
America,
he didn't
yeah.
really take on like the whole. I mean, he gets on the team and stuff. I don't think to the extent of MJ, but he did take under. He did like he pulled Neri like totally under his wing. Neri was like idolizing Cuauhtemoc back in those times, and so that was like a small example. But I think you're right. But the whole, I will say, like going to Ron's statement, the whole La Volpe, you don't you don't do that as a coach, man. You don't humiliate somebody as a coach. You can't like juke somebody or pull a nutmeg on somebody as a coach. It needs to come from a player. So like MJ was a player, he was ragging on his teammates.
Yeah.
From a coach, it's like, man, this dude's disrespecting me. It's like they're two different levels, a coach and a player. When you do that as a coach, and I think I remember now I'm remembering La Volpe like mistreated his players. I think Ron can correct me if I'm wrong.
He actually spoke about that. He's saying, I'm not yelling at them. I'm basically trying to correct their their errors. And he said that yeah, you could take it as I'm yelling at a player, but I'm not yelling at a player just for the sake of yelling at a player. I'm trying to correct the mistakes that he's making.
Yeah.
And like the instance that he gave was that he'll see a young player, um, like for example, a wing and or I'm sorry, a fullback, and he'll pass, he'll make a pass down the sideline, but to the player's back, saying that he's not even in position to receive that type of ball.
Hmm.
So he was talking about that it's like he's not yelling just for the sake of yelling. He's trying to um,
Yeah.
discipline and educate the player. But
Wasn't it?
that's him saying that. But there's been other players in the past that what's his name, Potro Gutierrez. He's he also he also spoke of Volpe's tendencies of yelling at players. Versi Cuauhtemoc might be no.
I think the thing with La Volpe that's interesting is he was a goalkeeper, so that's like, isn't that hard to like coach if you're a goalkeeper? And I mean, I don't know. I guess you can read the game better, but as
I
far
mean,
like the technical aspect of like how are you gonna tell a striker how to score if you've been a
well,
goalkeeper?
but at that point, you're not really teaching those players how to
Yeah,
do that. I mean, at that point, they should already know.
yeah,
And once you get to that level, you're not teaching them that.
Yeah. He's
You're just.
he's
I mean,
watching.
you're that.
Well, I was saying
Oh,
he watches the game, right? He's here at the back of
yeah,
the. You can see the whole game, so you can
yeah.
watch and analyze
He can
and
read
learn.
it. Yeah, yeah, he can
And
read
so
it.
basically, you're just putting it all together. Lavolpe, I think, had a bad he had a bad rep though. I think because he lost credibility, and this was also brought on like on Twitter. You see, all these things about old videos or old things happening. This guy brought up the topic of him bringing his yerno. What is it, Chiquis
yeah.
Garcia? Like,
Yeah,
how are you
yeah, that
gonna
was
do that,
terrible.
dude? You just brought him on, and everyone knows this. It's obvious. He brought him on just because
Didn't
he's
play
his
a single
yerno.
minute.
Yeah, and then he leaves off Cuauhtemoc. So it's just total.
Yeah,
Like you'd lose all credibility as a
yeah,
coach
you
when you
do.
do that kind of garbage.
You leave out Cuauhtemoc, but you bring in a naturalizado, which was Sinha, which I got no problem with. Sinha, he scored against the United States. He scored in the World Cup. He scored again in the Confederations Cup. So like he actually was one of the few naturalizados that I respect. But I mean, to leave out a player like Demo, who I think in that time we could have used him a lot more than when he came on 2010.
You should. Well, you left out. Come on, you left out Bofo.
Bofo too. Yeah. But Bofo again, another player that really didn't translate to the national team. I feel like he was never a player. He's a great club player, but never really turned it on for the national team.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wish he would have done more, but obviously, I mean, after La Volpe, I mean, just, we had a lot of Mexico had a lot of coaches. It's like
Yeah,
different styles, different.
yeah. I mean,
It
we had
was
what was that guy's name? He coached England.
yeah,
Forgot what
Sven Eriksson.
Oh Jesus, that was the worst. He was the worst, man. He had no idea what he was doing.
But the thing about it, Boffelman was on fire during that time, dude.
Oh yeah.
He should have been part of that. He should have been part of that team.
Yeah, he was great. He was at that '06, man. '06 was prime Bofo. It was also like prime Chivas, Libertadores and all that. Um, but another coach that like Duca Ferretti is like probably the prime example of just like the tough love. Like that guy just gets crazy angry. I think like if he had more titles under his belt, I think people would give him a lot more respect because he has choked in a lot of like the big finals. So, but he's like basically like the definition of tough love, man.
I think with La Volpe, he, you know, he I don't think that he's been able to manage the league, the regular, um, season, the playoffs. And like for example, take Piojo, who and I don't think he even likes the comparison anymore. About being a La Volpista,
Hmm.
because Herrera's no longer he's not a La Volpista anymore. He's more of a pragmatist. I see him more out now in the school of Treyes and La Puente than I see of La Volpe and Menotti and all those guys. I mean, he doesn't attack just for the sake of attacking, and sometimes sometimes it even pisses me off is that sometimes he'll play the percentages almost to a T. Like case in point, the World Cup against Holland. I think he should have I think he should have played a little bit more offense, and then taken the foot off the pedal
Oh
closer
yeah.
towards the end. I don't think he managed that well. But my point is that I think what has failed La Volpe is that he hasn't been able to make that distinction of time, of proper time management, both in the regular season and in the playoffs. I mean, it's. I mean, I've seen his teams perform, superbly during the regular season, and then it's just in one game, boom, crashes. And that's. I mean, that's part of the playoffs. I mean,
Hmm.
playoffs are you play them differently. You know,
Yeah. So speaking about the playoffs, what is the plan with Liga MX? I heard June might be the date that they return. I heard there's going to be 5 players that are going to be able to be used as subs just to get everyone back to fit and form. And there's also a lot of rumbling about the MLS and Liga MX merging, but honestly, I think that's stupid. But these are the things that are kind of that I've been seeing on Twitter for these last couple of days. What are you guys' thoughts?
So Tom wrote an article. He says six of the 18 Liga MX clubs are located in states which currently red with rising numbers of COVID. They have announced Wednesday that sporting events without spectators could return on June 15th at the earliest.
hmm.
Early July is what Liga MX is hoping. Um,
Honestly, I really don't even care for the season to start up again.
they should just scrap
I
it. Eh?
mean, just scrap it, dude. It's they've been what, they haven't played anything. They haven't trained for what going on 2 months now.
Hmm.
I
Oh
mean,
man.
Actually, they do
I
train, man.
mean,
You seen
what's that?
Instagram? They do train. On Instagram, they show their little like
Oh yeah, they do. I mean, yeah. I mean,
little
there's
solo
like
training.
little solo training and stuff like that. But it's like that's what you do. The beginning of preseason, but then you start playing with the actual ball and with drills and stuff like that. You're gonna see basically a league that's completely out of the rhythm. Um, I personally don't really care to see
So do
games that
you
are in empty stadiums with players that are not at full capacity.
so do you just give Cruz Azul a little gold star, a little half star? Well,
No, no,
10 games, man.
no, because here's the thing: how many times does the super leader crash out in the first
Almost never.
no, it's what I think it's 50-50. So the team that leads the league doesn't necessarily win the championship. The league.
It's almost a guarantee they're not gonna get to win the league. I can't remember
No,
the last.
the last time I checked, it was like almost like 50-50. But what I'm saying is that uh, they should not be awarded the championship.
Yeah,
Because anything can happen in the playoffs.
yeah. Well, I'd say like Liga MX is unique in the fact that they don't have a long season, so it's the beginning of the season. It's not like Liverpool, who have been dominating the Prem League like the whole season, and they should just give them the title. With Liga MX, because they split the season in half, Cruz Azul was up, 10 games into the season. They look promising. Right now, if you were to like restart the league, I would just probably either just do one of two things, like do a Liguilla with the 8 teams that are currently on top, or like you said, maybe just scrap it all together and then kind of give these teams like I don't know, like some bonus points. It's really complicated.
But here's the thing with Liverpool. People are gonna laugh. They're gonna laugh at Cruz Azul and they're gonna laugh at Liverpool because it's two teams that have not won in basically over 20 years.
Yeah,
If this was Manchester, this was Chelsea, this was Man City, whatever.
but I
I don't
mean,
think you'd. I don't think you'd hear a peep. You know.
but
Uh,
Liverpool has 82 points, and Man City, who's in second place, has 57. I mean, this
hmm.
is not
Yeah,
even close.
I would pretty much just give it that. Like I would if I was Liverpool. Well, not really, but Liverpool I would consider champions right now. I would
Yeah,
just say, yeah, you're done. You won it.
25 points ahead of anybody else, and they won the Champions League last year. It's like, yo, this is clearly, I mean, the
They are the
best team in the
best.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even close. It's not like Cruz Azul, who's like a point
but,
above.
no,
Like,
but they're also they were crying about losing in the Champions League this year, and that kind of just rubbed me the wrong way. You know, the who was it with Klopp and their GM. You know, because they shouldn't have been. They shouldn't have. Where did they lose to? Where was it in Milan? If I'm not mistaken, where? No,
let me check because, dude, I haven't seen Champions League in so long.
I know, I know.
It's like I don't even know what's going on anymore.
They were making an excuse about basically crapping out of it. It's like nah, you know what?
Standings. Let's see. They were in a group with wait, am I looking at the right one? Napoli?
Wasn't that? I think so. I know there was a name.
Napoli, Salzburg, and Ghent. Genk. But they made it out of the group.
No, this is in the knockout stages.
Oh, that's right. We're already in the knockout stage. Damn.
Uh,
See, there you go, man. I don't even. They lost to Salzburg? No, I'm
it was
tripping.
in no, it was in Italian.
Dude, I can't even find stats right now. It's a struggle right now. Oh, Madrid, Atleti.
Is it?
Yeah, that was it. I think.
Yeah, Atleti. They lost 4-2.
Right. You're right.
Yeah, it's
But
so
it's it, but
man.
it's that game that they lost. The second leg that they complained about.
Mm, it's so wonky, man. Cause like not all the fixtures from the Champions League were actually finished. So there's some teams that made it to the round of like the eight, the quarterfinals. But then
Yeah.
there's some teams yet to dispute.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so it's just like, dude, this whole thing is a shit show.
It's not even fair. It's not even fair, dude. It's like this. Like just scrap it. You're right because like Barcelona and Napoli didn't play and finish it out. Juventus and Leon didn't do it. Chelsea, Bayern also didn't do it.
Yeah.
Manchester City, Real Madrid also didn't. Play
Yeah.
the second leg.
It's awkward, man. It's just super awkward. And then I mean, we have to worry about like World Cup qualifiers and all that stuff. And obviously Copa America and the Euros got postponed this year. And then you got the Olympics as well. It's just like, damn, bro. Like what's
Oh,
good?
you got accredited for that, didn't you?
I did get accredited for that. I had my ticket. I was ready to go, man.
It's a hell of an experience that I was accredited to um Beijing.
Oh wow.
Here, question: did you get the one for the entire tournament, or just or the entire
Just
like
the
Olymp?
CONCACAF.
Okay,
The
okay.
CONCACAF,
Oh no, no.
yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So you didn't get accredited for the actual Olympics yet.
Guess qualifying
No.
in Guadalajara.
Okay,
Just
Guad-
cool.
just the
Oh, that's good.
qualifiers in Guadalajara,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, because for the Olympics, FIFA had this, or the IOC. No, I didn't get accreditation for the actual, like the entire Olympics, but just the footballing portion of it, which
Oh
is fine
wow.
by me. That's all I give a shit about.
Yeah. So you got to go to China?
Folks lived there back, shit, almost 20 years ago. Now that I think about it, and they made a lot of friends over there and stuff like that. So I had a place to stay, but I was only there.
Oh,
I
sick.
was just there briefly.
Oh,
Didn't stick
sick,
around
man.
for. I didn't stick around for the entire thing.
Yeah, man. I was ready to keep pushing, getting that CantinaMX exposure and the
Hmm.
Soccer Chronicle exposure as well. But it's fine, it's just postponed for now. Um, so we got there's a remark that I have to like. I just have to address it. I don't know if it was Miguel Herrera that said it, but he said that America could compete in La Liga in España. Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on that shit?
I think
I think Europa League is doable.
But
I think
they said the La Liga though, didn't they say like
La
the
Liga. The thing with La Liga is you have very high end talent, high end
Mhm.
quality teams, and then you have the lower end. So they could compete at a certain point, I think.
Yeah,
And
the
and that's
distribution
a
of
good
the
attitude. That's good
yeah,
confidence. But they would
like
probably
just
be mid or
yeah,
lower table maybe.
yeah,
So if that's
because
competing,
distribution of wealth.
here's the thing: position 1 through 4 is qualification to the champions. All right,
Hmm.
5 through 7 is Europa League.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I see, um, and in fact, who was the coach a couple days ago that I read about this? I think they were talking about Tecatito or whatever. I forget which coach, but
Lopetegui.
yeah, talking about that. Basically, the Mexican players making 3 times as much in Mexico
Hmm.
yeah,
than they would, in Spain. So it's like now the Mexican players making that. Also, obviously, also the South American players are making. I mean, for example, that what's his name? Like you had what's his name? The players that went to Betis. What's his name? Guido and
Este
It wasn't Linus,
Linus,
right?
Linus, yeah.
L- Betis is Guardado and
Yeah,
Lainez.
Guardado's there, but also Guido, and stuff like that. So I mean, do you really think they're making more or less?
Um, I don't know. I don't know about Lainez's situation, but he's probably making the same, if not less.
What about Guido?
Yeah.
He's probably
What's that?
making less, you think? Guido?
Of course.
But Wheels, he's not Mexican, right? He's
He's
Oh no, no, no. But
Argentinian.
but America owned owned his card and everything like that. But there was a contract in his clause, just like for example, with Mateus Uribe and what's his name, the goalkeeper Marchesín and stuff like that. So I mean, there was always the clauses in there saying that if a team from Europe, came calling, that they would be able to negotiate it.
I see.
For example, Guido's contract actually was supposed to end this summer, actually in June next month. So like I said, I mean, just 12th in the standings right now.
Yeah, I mean, all when I look at La Liga, it's the distribution of wealth is very drastic. You got like Madrid and Barca who have the biggest TV contracts. It's not
Yeah.
distributed appropriately, not like the EPL, whereas the EPL, like everybody gets their cut. Whereas in Spain, like if you're a bottom feeder team, you're not getting anything. So when it comes to like the Europa League, where in England it's not as prestigious, Europa League in Spain is a big deal because of the money that's associated with it. So when it comes to qualifying for Europa League, it's a dogfight, man.
Now, it's my understanding that the La Liga TV has changed. Like it changed like as of like 2 3 years back. So hold on, I could be wrong. Hold on. Thought I read
It
that because I know that you're right. It used to be like that.
used to be terrible. I mean, I don't know how it is now, but I just know that it was a really, really bad for a long time.
All right, hold on. Let me. I know that I read it something.
But I don't even know what's the even point of.
As of 2016-17 season, La Liga implemented a new model where TV rights were sold in a collective manner. After
Mm-hmm.
tough negotiations with top clubs such as Barcelona and Real Madrid, a royal decree was signed, which led to the new model. Since then, the economic disparity among all clubs has gradually began decreasing. Blah blah blah. So yeah, I mean, I knew that I read something about that. I don't know the percentages. From what I understood, that it was getting better for the remaining you know 18 teams, or however many.
Liga MX should take a note because it's the reason why players are going to the MLS because they have a springboard to go to Europe because MLS is easier to watch if you're overseas than Liga MX. right?
Oh, I debunked
That's
that.
actually
I debunked that
yeah,
springboard, dude.
that's been debunked. That's been debunked because okay, times that they're showing the games.
Yeah, the middle of the night. We asked. Okay, so Rigo, we talked about this already. Rigo's friend from Europe, or I think from England, he asked him directly, man. MLS games are not shown taped like in prime time or during the day where actually people can watch. They're in like the middle of the night.
Well, yeah,
So
because MLS games start at like what 2 in the afternoon, so that's like 10 at night over in England. So
yeah, and those are the afternoon games. So like say for
yeah,
say a nighttime game for
yeah,
MLS is
exactly.
like even later.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're showing
No,
up
I
in
know.
Europe like in the when everyone's asleep. So the actual people that are able to watch MLS, is minimal, I would say.
So the so that's one thing that I heard, and then another thing is like they want these two leagues to create a super league, and then now that the second division in Mexico has been it's become like a rec league, like teams in that league are not going to be able to get promoted to the first division. So what's going on with that? I heard there's like another league that's forming, like an independent league. It's just like it's such a shit show in Mexico right now.
Yeah, I've seen like protesting, like complaining from the second division players. I think with like some signs saying like there's no progress if there's no promotion, because that's
That,
their carrot. They're going after is promotion. That's why they're working so hard and trying to
You
get
you t-
promoted.
you take that incentive away, and then what do you do now?
has that incentive ever worked?
No, because
Oh, it hasn't.
yeah, because they're screwed though. Because if they do get the championship, okay, then they got to check. Oh, do you have enough money to get into the first tier? Do you have enough a big stadium? Do you fulfill all these requirements to be a first division team? Oh no, you don't. And plus, we want to
It,
save our Veracruz, or we want to save our
it,
descending team
it,
from humiliation.
only two teams. The only two teams in the last 25 years that have been able to get their act together is basically Tigres and Pachuca. I mean, those guys faced what two relegations in the 90s. So
Did they?
and yeah,
Oh shit, I didn't know
the-
that.
yeah, Tigres got Tigres, Tigres got relegated and stuff like that in the what, I think '96. I think if I'm not mistaken.
Oh
Pachuca,
shit.
Pachuca. I mean, those guys, faced like Pachuca. I think if if memory serves me, they got relegated and then they came back up and then boom, relegated again. And if had that been any other ownership group, would have just pulled the plug and boom, call it a day. But like for example, Grupo Pachuca, they decided to stick with their their plan, and also in with Tigres, they had they basically started an ownership group, Sinergia Deportiva, which was basically a management group from Cemex. So I mean they stuck with it, and good for them. But that's it. I mean all the other teams there. I mean there's been since 94, 95 when they rebranded the second division in an attempt. They were basically trying to emulate what the Premier League was doing back then. Because if you recall, like if you recall back in what is it 92, 93, or 91, 92, I don't remember the exact year. The
Uh,
Premier League basically, the first division of the English division in the pyramid, they split off. They set up they became independent from the FA. So basically, you had the first division term, and that became the Premiership, the Premier League. And then you had the second, third, and fourth. They got rebranded into the Championship. Second division, first division, second division. Basically, that's what they were trying to do in Mexico, was that they were trying to rebrand the second division and try to shorten the distance between the expenses, the money between the first division and second division, but they never were able to accomplish that. I don't remember if it was, I don't, what's his name, the ex Puebla owner, Bernat. He was a Pepsi, had a lot of stocks in Pepsi, and or him, or or Toño Garcia from Atlanta. I don't remember which one of those two, but one of those two. I remember reading an article, and it said that when a team in Mexico basically is relegated, they can lose up to 85% of their revenues.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So they save them. So they save them, and they don't relegate them. They disrespect the ascending team. I don't care. Like I
So
don't care though if a team gains promotion and they have like some scrapyard stadium, their players have full time jobs or whatever. Man, I don't care. They're going to go into the first division. They're going to get humiliated. Then their owners need to say, okay, we need to get our act together. We need to do some investing. We need to actually be a serious club instead of acting like a second division club if we're going to be in first division. And maybe that's going to motivate some people. I don't care if you have like what was this? Who was the team that had like the flute? I love that. Oh, it's Jaguares, man. Jaguares had the flute that was going. I love that. I love that stadium. It was like
It
some
was
old.
nice to see these small clubs, man. You had like Leones Negros, and I mean, they're a team that has a lot of history. And then,
Yeah, they're in the
I mean,
Jalisco. So
I think the biggest shame of all this is Atlante, man. I mean, they were a big club, man.
yeah,
And they're since they moved to Cancun, they've just been they won
Ver-
that one title, and then that's it, man. It's like the last you've heard of them.
Veracruz is a shame also, man. I am so sad.
Veracruz is an
El
embarrassment.
Pirata Fuentes,
Yeah,
that's like the legendary stadium, man.
I
Ha.
know. And then you got a team, Atletico Zacatepec. I mean, their stadium is really, really nice. That's a first division stadium. But yeah.
now,
Hey,
now Leon, obviously they're funded right now with Grupo Pachuca, right? But
Hmm.
if Grupo Pachuca wasn't there, they'd be just like any other team,
Oh yeah.
struggling between going up and down, and stuff like that. Now this is like, and I mentioned it to some of the other guys, like, or I don't remember who I spoke to. It was on Twitter, but basically, what's his name, Carlos Slim, man in the world, right? He usually
Carlos
shares that
Slim.
with Carlos Slim. He usually shares that with like Bill Gates and
Uh-huh.
other guys like that. He had 30% share in Grupo Pachuca's stake in Leon, right?
Hmm.
And but what I don't think he ever had the intentions of really, having an operation, or basically but Leon, and calling that his baby. I think the reason he got into it is because he was trying to, the TV wars, and the streaming wars with Televisa. So I think
Mm.
he was choosing sides because if you recall, that was around the same time when Pachuca says, "Boom, you know what? I'm not going to go with TV Azteca, and I'm not going to go with Televisa,"
Yeah, they
because
went with what, Fox?
they did yeah that was that around that time, because because Televisa and Carlos Slim, they were basically at odds with one another. So I
That makes
think,
sense.
I think he was more of, the enemy of my enemy is my friend right now. So I think that's why I don't think he ever had true intentions of basically, getting into football. Um, and like I said, as much as I like promotion and relegation, I don't think it's for Mexico. It's never been a viable industry. It's never been a
Hmm.
viable operation.
mm.
I think you just, you know what? Just bring it back to 20 teams, and let the second division just be like the farmer teams for all the first division clubs. Because like Chivas used to have Chivas Coras and all that stuff. Just keep doing that. Just keep all your reserve players in the second division. And let them get minutes.
Who's
That's
going
all.
to invest it? Who's going to invest in that?
The
If the,
clubs
if the,
that are in the first division, they're gonna have these farmer teams, man. It's like the way they do it in
what's
baseball.
what's the incentive?
The incentive is to, continue to grow your youth academy, because I mean Chivas have the best academy in Mexico, and those players are what are they doing right now? They're just playing for the under 20, under 17. Is that they just have like under something leagues? I mean, those are cool and all, but it'd be kind of cool to like have have these farmer clubs, kind of like the way they do in baseball.
That's an option.
Well, but in baseball, you're, uh, everybody makes money except the players. In fact, that Real Sports actually did a report on this a couple years back, like 2 3 years back. I mean, the minor league baseball players, they're almost welfare cases. You know, if you guys go to Real Sports and stuff like that and look it up, it was actually a really interesting report on it. But anyhow, what I'm saying is, you know, I think the best thing that Liga MX can do is basically apply the franchise model that they do like in NBA and NFL and stuff like that. So like if you want to go even to 25 teams or 24 teams or whatever, just make sure that you have an independent, fully autonomous investment group that's going to be in there for the long haul. Because I mean, like, and the reason I say that is because I don't think promotion relegation has not worked in 30 years. It doesn't make money. Over 100 teams have tried, vast majority fail. The vast majority right now are either in the second division, I'm sorry, in the third division, fourth division, or some amateur status.
Well,
So,
what about
I
the
mean,
players that aren't good enough for first division? Because there's a lot of those playing in Asensio. Like Omar Bravo plays for Leones Negros. I don't know
well,
why, but
I
he
mean,
does.
at that point, I mean, honestly, just reduce the number of foreigners. I mean, at one point there used to be 3 foreigners. They were good foreigners, not hacks. For the most part, they used to get pretty good foreigners, and stuff like that. And like I said, just make it make the incentive where you're trying to get investment groups to really to commit for the long haul, because it's like, and as much as we wish we could be like Europe, where you have the league, you have the cup, you have the Champions League and stuff like that. You're never going to get that here. I
Yeah.
mean, never going to do it.
I mean,
No,
the Copa MX was starting to take up steam. It was
it,
starting
it, it it was it was
it was starting to get a little bit more prestige. And
yeah,
then obviously you got the Conca Champions, which is a joke, but yeah.
It is because playing the top 8 teams in Mexico are better than basically every team in North America. I mean, it really
Oof, oof with that statement though.
sad.
That's a bold statement, my friend.
Oh, how many teams have won, how many MLS teams have won the CONCACAF in the last 20 years? That many.
Yeah, that's a good point that Luis in our chat. We had a couple people in our chat, but Luis has been there for a while. He brings up. Let me see what he says. Okay, Mexico's won
I
the last
mean,
15 Conca Champions trophies,
Leo,
even after
yeah.
CONCACAF eliminated the group stage and gave MLS automatic KO stage qualification. So okay, so he says, imagine that MLS and Liga MX combine, and they don't accommodate the say it's like in a Liguilla format. They don't accommodate like a American League and a National League, like in baseball.
Huh.
It could very easily be where the top 8 teams or the top 10, however many go to the playoffs to the Liguilla, end up being all Liga MX. Imagine that. Like you combine the leagues and then your playoffs end up being all Liga MX and MLS is like,
Yeah.
eliminated already. That would be totally embarrassing, man.
So you're saying that the only way the gringos would agree to the rules is if it was the best
It's got to be rigged.
Mexican team versus the best.
No,
No,
it's got to be an AL or
It'd be the Liga
American League and
MX
National League.
bracket versus the yeah. And yeah,
and
that
they
would
You,
would.
make
it's got to be
that would
rigged for
make
where
sense.
there's like a balance of Liga MX MLS to where MLS will
Yeah.
obviously get a shot.
Cause, cause I'll be honest, man. I've been on a lot of like on Twitter and stuff. I'm like, hey, I know all the MLS teams got eliminated from Conca Champions, but you guys should really tune in for the final because it's gonna be. It was Tigres Monterrey. I think the last Conca Champions final. And everybody's like, I'm not gonna watch it if there's no MLS team in there. I'm like, well, you're missing out on some good football. And like, they don't really care, bro. If the second the
Yeah.
MLS teams are eliminated, the American public is not watching that shit.
One of the advantages of the merger is that MLS It seems like MLS and Liga MX basically trying to fight for the same, fan base. You know, so at this point, like if they were to merge, no longer basically fighting for that base. You're no longer fighting for that Hispanic, consumer base. You're no longer, fighting for that European base that's that want to watch some domestic soccer.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously there's advantages and there's disadvantages. For going back to why I think promotion relegation in Mexico, as much as I would love to to emulate something like they do in Europe. It's like I don't know if you're like familiar with up here, but like Rita's Ice House, these water ice, it's a business that only operates basically when it's warm, because when it's cold it doesn't function. And it's, for me, it's one of those type of things where it's like, why are you gonna operate something that hasn't functioned in the last 30 years in Mexico? Just promotion relegation. As much as, like I said, as much as I'd love to have it, I just, like, I'm getting to the point where, you know what, I'd rather have a franchise model league where, okay, right now maybe you just start off with 20, or I'm sorry, 18. But, like, kind of like what MLS is doing, was like, all right, well, Cincinnati, they got an ownership group, they're committed, they have, almost $500 million ready to go. Boom, let's get them in. You know,
I can
like,
see
for
that.
example, there's like I forget the city. The city built a gorgeous, really modern stadium. Now it's going to sit empty. You know. Well, I mean, if you're an investor in that city, and then it's like, well, hey, the city, built this. I said, let me take advantage of it. So it's like, it's going to have to be like a partner, kind of like what Pachuca did. Basically the owners of Pachuca, you know, um, basically, whining and dining, the politicians over there in Hidalgo, for getting the land, getting the stadium, doing this. So it was both kind of like a partnership, both with private and public money.
Hmm. I mean, I don't have any problem with Liga MX going up to 20 teams. I think they were trying to get in that direction anyways.
Yeah.
Um,
Just
and
the
from there it's
restrictions.
just like,
Yeah, I think the
Huh?
restrictions and rules need to be lax. Like if they start pulling up restriction and rules for the creation of a team, like they do for ascending teams, then that would be an issue. But yeah, I could see a larger amount of teams and not necessarily no any more promotion relegation.
What one of the I think one of the positive things that, I mean, or at least one of the things that I would hope for, is that if it was to merge, you know, especially if you're merging with, in the United States, you're going to see a lot of less shenanigans. In terms of, that your numbers are going to have to be right, spotless and clean. Basically, what I'm trying to get to is that, that, like, sometimes you've had owners that are kind of like iffy, like Santos and had that Carlos Almada. Remember him from a couple years back? You know, dirty money.
Mm. Well, Pachuca
Like,
Pachuca had state money.
true, but I
Veracruz
mean, it's not
had.
like they did anything illegal, but they basically, know, I mean, I guess you can't prove that they did anything illegal, but what they basically did is they whining and dining, the politicians, to get, sweet deals on land and properties and stuff like that, so um, they could build their university and their training facilities and stuff like that.
Luis brings up a comment. The U.S. isn't a clean country. Chase got busted importing 20 billion of cocaine.
Sad.
So Chase
I mean,
Chase got busted importing $20 billion of cocaine.
damn.
The U.S. spent 7 billion committing genocide because they hate it. Oh,
and
okay. He's going.
but here's the thing, and they got caught.
He's
mean,
good. Oh, they got caught.
it's
Yeah,
you
impunity,
know what I mean.
impunity in Mexico is something else, I guess.
Oh, I mean, like I'm saying this, you're gonna be forced to run cleaner books. No one in Mexico, no one in Mexico, the Mexican league, you don't have access to their numbers.
Mm.
That's one of the things that like for example, like in American sports, know,
You know that the women's national team is making less than men.
but what I'm saying is, the contracts that are being made, the player salaries and stuff like that. In this day and age, you still have in Mexico, you still have those famous double contracts where the owner and the player have a contract. There's another contract, a secret contract between the federation and the owner and the ownership group and stuff like that. And that's a bush league. Dude. I mean,
How,
not all the not
can,
all the clubs do that. Normally, like like the Veracruzes, the Colibris, those shit show type of clubs that don't do things the right way.
like prime example, how much does Gignac make? Because there's no way he's making like the reported amount that I think I heard. He's probably making a lot of money under the table.
He's got a humble abode though, man. His house, like his backyard, isn't too. He's not in a mansion, but
He was playing for Marseille, bro. He was in France.
yeah,
He was playing Champions League football. Like, it must have taken a lot for Digas to convince him to go to Mexico. I still don't know how they pulled that off, man. I really don't know how they pulled that off.
they must have injected him with some culture like prior, because he loves Mexican culture now, man. He's like all in it.
He's got a wife that's Mexican. He's got kids that are Mexican. It's crazy, man.
You hear what I'm listening to?
No.
No,
I was I was
because
I was thinking you were gonna
that.
play like something for Jaime to to go chant and sing in the
Oh
Zocalo.
no, like for example, like
We need John to play the soundboard.
Yes, we're missing it. I didn't have time to get a message to John.
hey, by the way, which chat room are you talking about?
The YouTube comments.
Go to there. Let
Oh
me
yeah,
see.
We have a lot of fans.
we got
Let me
Louis,
see.
we got Lewis, we got Adidas
Speaking
DC.
of fans,
See.
I have a question for you guys. At this point, should Zague start his OnlyFans account?
Jesus.
What is up with Zague, man? What's going on, man? What is he doing?
Poor guy, dude.
He's got
He's
mental
just
issues.
Any. I know that he had ambition to basically be like a general, director, like a GM of sorts. He can kiss that goodbye, dude.
There was, man, I think there was like a name that you guys said on Twitter that I was just like, bro, that should be the name of a podcast. But
Oh,
holy smokes.
a la tercera pata de Sage.
We get 10. If we can get 10, no, let's do 20 likes on this YouTube. We'll change our name to to that.
Did you see the new video that what's the name Martinoli and them posted? It was of Martinoli and Bermudez. They were meeting up at an airport,
I
you know,
haven't.
and Martin Martinoli or Perro asked about how the crew was doing. Luis Garcia and Sage, and they were just laughing about Sage, dude. It's just hilarious, guy, dude.
My question is, why is he wearing a wig?
I don't know, dude.
What is he like? He's gonna disguise himself like it's not him. Um, but I'll tell you, man.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the comments here.
I've never felt more uncomfortable than his latest video and staring into his pee hole. It like stared into my soul, bro. I didn't know what that was. I was not ready for that, bro. I need therapy.
Oh, hey, somehow related. Somehow related. What's your take on players boosting? You know, like for example, what Jonah Dos Santos did.
Oh my goodness. How do we not talk about this? Jonah is a homie. He is just sharing the wealth. You know what I mean?
See, for me, I take it one of those things where if I was the club owner, I would not allow the
Mm.
players to do take in social media because especially
Like,
with
yeah. It could be a liability.
it is a liability because have players that just like bitch at the press is like, hey, stop talking about me, stop, get out of my private life. But then you have shit like that, it's like do that. It's like obviously had a lot of social just or social crusaders. It's like how Jonah Dos Santos was basically putting women in a light, treating them as sexual objects and blah 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 blah. And it's like
Yeah.
No, it
I
was
mean,
it
I
was
think it's
the it was the journalists, man. So Jonah did his thing. Jonah did his thing, and then
d-
journalists and every other
yeah.
person were
Everybody's
like
eating.
applauding him and praising him for what he did. But what did he do? What are the women gonna respond to? To the praise of, hey man, you're the
They're
man,
gonna be
dude.
like,
You're
can
It's like
I
toxic
get in
masculinity.
line? I don't
Oh,
know. I think that he was drunk and he posted a photo and then he started going on her IG and just putting hella comments and people figured it out, you know?
the result of what he did is pretty much locker room talk. That's the
But
exact thing that happened was wrong.
can you can you imagine if someone like Dennis Rodman had Twitter back in the days when he was
It it
doing
was almost
shit?
the same way. Dennis
it was
Rodman.
worse.
He was
But
dressed in a wedding gown. He went around like acting all crazy. So it was almost the same thing, even
Yeah,
without
but I
Twitter.
mean, not to the intimate levels that we have access to celebrities and artists now. I mean,
I agree.
you
It would
can
have been
and,
worse.
you
and
can
you
you
have you've had many artists. You've had many artists like like for example DiCaprio and stuff like that saying that he was happy that his youth that you didn't have social media when he was basically in his early
oh
20s.
dude, yeah,
It's
dude,
like
because I
teens
mean,
early.
because even to the extent of like, yeah, you had all these cameras and paparazzi on you, you know, like when it comes to like Dennis Rodman, the way things were distributed weren't instant the way things are now. Like
Yeah.
now you can accidentally send like a dick pic to like the entire, internet. Like just on accident, man, and that's instant. You can't delete. You can delete it, but someone took a screenshot. You know what I mean? It's not the same as back in the day, man. So I don't know, man. I just think like as much as you try and control players, you can. But I would probably put that in their contract, like, yo, if you do this, you do that on social media, like you're gonna get fined. You know what I mean? Like I guess just have like rules in case something like this happens.
You're such a white
Yeah.
knight, Ron. You're gonna find a guy.
That
You're the
no,
morality. You're the new morality
no,
police.
no, by no means. Like what I don't care what they do in the privacy of their own homes, but the thing about it is when that privacy starts affecting your organization, because I
Yeah.
mean, as a player, like and stuff like that, when other players start getting interviewed about what a teammate of yours is doing, you know, it it's unprofessional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you always see basically athletes explode. It's like well, why are you asking me? Ask him or blah 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 blah. So it just creates more friction and creates more problems. It's like I guess maybe what Jaime said is like at least have certain clauses in there. It's like hey you'll get fined after if you do it a second time. We can rescind the contract or we can renegotiate and lower your wages even further. Uh, but I uh, I just think that that's stupid. It's stupid to do those type of things.
Yeah. I mean,
Like
it's
for example, that Sagi is never ever going to get another position. he was wanting to, I remember there was an episode in Fútbol Picante when they had Pelais there, and you could sense Sage was bitter with Pelais because he had the position, he had the position that
that he
basically
wanted.
Sage exactly. In fact, he had it for a while. I remember when and at the time I was in Houston and America was there for Interleague, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was when Ruggeri was there, if I'm not mistaken. You know, he had that sporting director position, but he didn't last long. And like, and I remember in that episode when he was there like confronting Pelais, and it's like, hey, well, he was giving excuses. I wasn't given, the I wasn't given the free reins like you were, and blah 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 blah. And then like I've seen other interviews where he's talking about having that type of leadership position in a club, which he's never going to get. He's like, you know in a way he's kind of like Faitelson now, where it's like you mention him and like the first thing you think, if you don't think really of a serious journalist, you just think of El Putazo.
Oh man, every day on Twitter he is reminded.
Reminded of it.
Every day, man. Uh, yeah, that's so funny, dude. So yeah, we had some chismes going around. Some more chismes. I wanted to talk a little bit about some rumors that are going around. Recently, there's a lot of steam picking up again with Cesar Montes. He's a Monterrey player to Valencia, which would be interesting. Tecatito to Inter Milan. That's been a rumor. And then Eric Gutierrez, Chivas are after him. I guess things in Holland haven't really been going well for him. He's really hasn't been playing much, so Chivas are interested in him and Pocho Guzman, who was one of our refuerzos, but got kicked out because of the failed drug test. But now I think he's trying to clear his name and return to Chivas. And then Chucky Lozano, who's moved to Napoli, has just been so bad after Ancelotti got fired. And Ancelotti wants him at Everton. And there's also rumors that Manchester United are interested in his signature. Obviously, all these rumors and transfers have all been gotten really complicated because we're all on pause right now and the money is not going in and out. But man, some interesting rumors.
I'd like to see Chucky at in the EPL. That'd be sort of. I have my doubts on how he'll do, but it would be interesting to watch. I think he
would
might
get
get
eaten alive,
he
man.
might get
He
muscles,
doesn't.
man.
He would have to do like a Gareth Bale, just put on that muscle, man, because he I don't think he has the physicality to handle that kind of league. But I mean, I think his move to Serie A has been a complete failure. I don't know what it is about Serie A and Mexicans, but they just don't get along. I mean, like what's his name? Hector Moreno went to Roma. It didn't really work out for him. I
Since
think
Rafa?
what's his Rafa
Oh
was the
no,
only
Rafa
one that
didn't. Rafa. Where,
Rafa
where
went
was
to
he at?
Verona. He actually did well.
Yeah, he's Verona.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, Chucky, man, it's just like such a great player, and he's just on the bench.
Yeah, man.
And then another interesting thing that happened, Amaury Vergara, he was on Twitter saying that Chivas are going to have their own All or Nothing show on Amazon Prime, which is very exciting.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Basically, what that means is that they're running low on cash.
Yeah. Need to buy another
I'm
56K
surprised.
modem.
What's that?
They need to buy another 56K modem for their
Yeah.
Chivas TV.
Yeah. So
Oh Jesus, Chivas TV, what a
That
failure.
reminds me though, like I got to bring up a recommendation for all our listeners who might be haven't seen the oh shoot, I forgot the name of the show on
Oh,
Amazon Prime, or not, say, is it on Netflix? The English Game.
the English game?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
The
good, man.
English game is great. It was
that was
good. It
good.
was just short.
It reminded me of the high class uh, type of attitude that Ron brings, man. Got to wear a nice uniform. You got to be a gentleman on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't have some mill worker on the pitch trying to take
Yeah, and
our
it
FA
was a true
Cup.
story.
Yeah.
I think that's the part that's crazy. Is it was like a true story. Like this is how the FA Cup, started, and it's just impressive. Like, it's so like some of these teams are like over 100 years old, almost 100, 20, 30 years old. It's like crazy, man. Then you look like you look at a league like the MLS, you're like, wow. Like, do you really think this thing's gonna be around another 100 years? Probably not. You look at Miami, their first season in the MLS, and it's a complete like literally the worst thing that could happen to Miami is
Oh yeah.
has happened.
I think it is here to last. I do. I don't think they didn't invest money that they did back when they when they did the NA, the North American Soccer League.
Uh-huh.
They just basically tried to go after talent, and foreign talent, and the problem is a lot of the home base, the home fans didn't know these players other than like your Pelés and your Beckenbauers, but the vast majority is like they didn't know who they were. They didn't know who George Best was. They didn't know.
I know. George Best played for the San Jose Earthquakes back in the 70s. That's fucking crazy.
I know. It's like
And people, it, and these people actually like the fact that they can come here and nobody knows who they are. It's crazy, right? It's like
yeah.
they actually can live like normal
They
people
can
here.
relax. Yeah.
Well, Klinsmann, if I'm not mistaken, said something along that lines, and I think there was another player, Italian player, that was on the World Cup winning team. I forget who, but also said something along those lines where like every time he goes to the U.S., he enjoys it because most people don't recognize him.
Yeah.
Yeah, my old coach, rest in peace, Steve Keshi, he was a Nigerian player. He was the captain of the Nigeria team. And after the World Cup here, he's like, I like it here. I'm just gonna stay here. And that's what he did.
Yeah. So like the actual like the Eagles, like the Green Eagles.
Yeah, he was my coach when I was in what 10? No, I was like 12 years old, 13 years old. He had a he has a lot of kids, but I grew up with like one of his kids.
Uh,
What's so fun? Dang, dude.
all right, so then go back.
What's going on?
All right.
No, okay.
My bad.
All right, boys, I'm gonna call it a night, man.
For
All right,
sure.
man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I got a
Yeah,
lot
we've
a
gone
lot
over
going on.
we've gone over an hour, so I guess
We've
we're
got on over
wrapping
an hour.
things up.
We can wrap this thing up.
What do you guys have planned for tomorrow in the lockdown? Nothing.
Huh? Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Going to see what
Uh,
restaurants are open. It's my birthday tomorrow, man. I got a birthday lunch or something.
Oh, word! Ah, you and my dad have the same birthday. Happy birthday, bro.
Yeah,
Happy
thanks.
birthday, man. Yeah, I mean, I can't find any restaurants here, dude. Just trying to find a restaurant where I can sit in, but shit, luck, dude.
Yeah.
I even went, was it days ago? I went to this place. It was like little Saigon. Try to eat some pho, hoping they would let me in and sit down. No luck, dude. I said, never mind. Happy birthday, dude. I hope you find a restaurant you
Yeah.
can eat.
Yeah, maybe some barbecue. Something. We'll see.
All right. Later, dude.
Yeah, later, man.
Later, man. Well, it's time to wrap this up.
All right, man. Any final thoughts before we
Final
shut it?
thoughts, I would just say, we've been in this for 2 months, and we don't really know when things will be back to normal, but it seems like people were excited to see us back in action. So thank you for all the listeners that have tuned in to this podcast, and future listeners that will listen to this probably tomorrow. And if you guys have some topics that we didn't cover that you guys want us to touch on, let us know.
Yeah, definitely. Even like questions and stuff or whatever, man. We'll talk about whatever. But yeah, thanks for I guess Luis was on. Louis
Yeah.
Adidas
Shout out
DC.
to shout out to Jose Luis, the troll that was calling Vela his daddy. Um,
Yeah, you're saying we had a LAFC fan there. They were riding high for a little bit, but then Conca champions. Yep, Corona got coroned. So yeah,
beat
Bundesliga.
down,
Yeah,
got
they
beat
yeah they did
down,
they,
but
they did that. Well, I think Luis said Mena was gone. Mena was missing. I don't know if Mena would have made any difference, but he's definitely a great player to be missing though. So
I mean, I was there for that game, man. I was waiting for Leon to win,
yeah,
and it just didn't happen. So I was like, all right, Cruz Azul will handle them.
yeah, we'll see. But yeah, Bundesliga is starting on Saturday, so we'll see how that goes. And then we'll
Well,
see
we
what
don't
else
have any
starts up.
Mexicans in the Bundesliga, but I'm sure I'm sure it'll just be nice to see some action.
Yeah, they might get a boost. Like people, want to watch something. They might get a boost in viewership.
The hottest player in the Bundesliga is Haaland. That kid is on. I mean, he was on fire
Yeah, he
until
was.
this whole, but he's probably the most exciting player to watch in the Bundesliga.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on, Jaime. We'll
Yeah, thanks for
hope
having me.
hopefully some more topics and things will come up this week, and we'll be back next week on Thursday night for another podcast. Thank you all for listening and joining, and we'll get this recorded and put out uh, on all the locations for tomorrow. See you guys later.